Dee McSweeney, welcome to Lingofest.
Thank you, Dr. Bouzid.
I love your name, Dee McSweeney.
Thank you. Somebody told me one time that's a good radio name. They actually said that.
It is, right? Dee McSweeney is just,
Entertainment name.
as soon as I saw it and heard it, I'm like, it rhymes and it's original and it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, as we were chatting before we started recording, I want to give the audience some context as to why I'm speaking with someone who's not a technologist, who's not like into the human language technology world, but it is involved in a very intimate way, in a very meaningful way, in creating content and also in helping creating content. Now we'll dig into that in a bit. So human language technologists, they create technology, but technology by itself, as I was telling you, is not much unless somebody will take it, will use it to create content, to create stuff, to create stories and so forth. But then the story by itself is not necessarily, and in itself, it needs to be delivered, right? Some of them are delivered, you know, through acting, maybe in movies and theater, maybe through songs and so forth. So there's the performance aspect of the ecosystem. And then there's a whole ecosystem of folks who help make all that happen, like producers and directors and, you know, and casting folks, you know, who are going to find the right person for the right role, and the financiers.
We have to put it in a nice, neat little bowl.
Yes, yes.
People
And then all
don't
of a sudden
always
there's magic.
people don't always realize the work that goes into something. They see a final product, even a television commercial, for example. They watch a television commercial for 30 seconds and they say, wow, that looks easy. I could do that. However, what they don't realize is that 30-second commercial took 13 hours and 42 minutes in the cold in Long Island in January at 22 degrees to create. So there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, and there's a whole village and more to create anything of value. And, you know, and then beyond, there's the post-production as well, and all that stuff, right? And getting it all the way to where it needs to, you know, to be shown and so forth. Anyway, so for the viewers, really, what I want to put, like, the next phase, hopefully, of this podcast is to just branch out and just give folks a sense of that ecosystem, right? We'll still talk about human technology once in a while, but I think one benefits quite a bit by knowing all what it takes really to get something out of value. So now, as I said, I want to talk about you and all the good things and the amazing things that you do. I'm gonna start um, with one thing that I found really interesting, which is that you were a lead singer in a band
For a long time.
for a long time. So voice for you is an important, like you have a voice and you know how to sing, and tell folks, what does it mean to be a lead singer in a band?
To be a lead singer in a band, first of all, a lot of times I get the question, or I get somebody saying, I can't sing. And I say to them, well, yes, you can. Some people are just born with a gift. It's in their DNA. My professional singing side comes from my father, and I had that in my DNA, I guess. But singing can be cultivated, which is why there are a lot of voice teachers in the world. And it really, good singing is done by proper breathing. And that's a very plain way to say it. Once one knows how to breathe properly and push air from the diaphragm up into here, most people, they think they're supposed to sing from here. They're not. They're really supposed to sing from the nasal cavity, and it goes up, 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 up. That is what produces good sound and good range. And I've been singing since I was 4 years old. And when I'm cutting the story short, and then you can ask me whatever questions you would like.
Yeah.
When I was 14 years old, going into 15 years old, I forget what happened that day, but I don't know, it was one of those tough days in high school, and I was having a bad day. And my cousin, who was a little bit older, she said, come on, come out to dinner with my friends and I. They were like 17, 18, they could drive, they could, do other things that I could not. But we all went out to dinner together, and lo and behold, as we're sitting there at dinner, some guy comes over to my cousin who knew her, and they started up a conversation. And somehow he says, do you know anyone who can sing? We have a band that's really good, and we just need a female lead singer. There's a lot of great songs we have, and there's one guy who can sing, but we need a female voice who can have a higher range. And that was it. On that day, back in, I don't know, that was 1981, maybe September of 81, I was introduced to these people, and I was with them for about 35 years. And
Wow.
I still talk to them to this day. The band does not exist anymore. But that said, even though we don't play out in bars and clubs and certain events and certain celebratory venues, I worked with a gentleman named Pat on an album that he was working on, and we finished it about a year and a half ago, and now he has to put it all together. So we shall see. I don't
Oh,
know.
wow. Okay.
I don't expect anything except I was having fun. And so I'm waiting for Pat to see what he comes up with on that side. He had a full studio in his home. And right now, as far as singing, COVID has gotten in the way. However, I am a professional volunteer singer for an organization called Sing for Hope. And they're a wonderful organization, Sing for Hope. They take all these rundown pianos and they fix them up. And there's artists of all kinds. There's singing artists, there's painting and drawing artists, and all these artists, they take these junky pianos and they fix them up and they paint them and they really make them gorgeous. If you look at the website, Sing for Hope, it's really stunning what these artists can do. And we have about 400, 500 pianos, and we put them in the summertime, we put them all throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City, and people can just play them. Anyone is allowed to play them. They are taken care of at night. They're covered and protected from the elements. And during the end of the summer season, when it starts to get too cold, we take all of those, I'm guessing a number, about 500 pianos. We take them out of the 5 boroughs of New York and we donate them to schools for their music programs. So it's a really nice thing.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's so meaningful because how many careers this is going to launch, folks who otherwise just could not touch a piano.
Yeah.
Right?
And sometimes people, you've seen it in your lifetime, you see somebody in a subway or just on the street playing any instrument and they're good.
Yeah.
And sometimes somebody just comes along and says, hey, why don't you, if they could be a homeless person or they could just be down on their luck and they have this gift, talent that's being wasted. And somebody might be passing by and say, hey, I own a restaurant, and what about playing at happy hour or we have a piano, why don't you play our piano? And people will, give you tips. And one never knows what can start from something like that. So I like to see, with all of the creative things that I do, I love to see nice blessings and stories come out of them where not only it touches other people's lives, because singing and music, that's a universal. So
true.
I don't know anyone who's ever said to me in my entire lifetime, you know what, Dee, I hate music. I've never met anybody who said that.
That's
I'm
true.
not saying there's no one on the planet Earth, but I've never met anyone who has said that they did not like some form of music.
Yeah.
And music just makes people happy. It can put you in a good mood if you're feeling a little down, or it can give you a
Yeah,
lift.
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, it could either, if you want to get cheered up, it will cheer you up. If it wants to just have you live your emotions, right, and just go through them, it will do that. You'll find, yeah, absolutely. Music, I agree with you. It's definitely universal.
It can
Um,
change your physiology.
it does, right?
If you're unhappy or you're upset about something, I, music and singing can really lift your spirits, your
Yeah,
soul,
yeah, yeah.
and it has a physiological change.
It does, it does. So what kind of music did you sing?
I sing everything except opera. And funny enough, my voice teacher is an opera teacher, is an opera singer, and
Mm,
she does great. Um, she sang in Phantom of the Opera for years.
wow.
Yeah. And I sing rock and roll, rhythm and blues, jazz, and ballads.
And the band, was it, what kind of a band was it?
It it was a rock and roll band. They did, pop music and the popular things. They did everything from regular top 40 to old classical rock and roll.
Yeah, yeah. Did you guys create your own material, or did you perform only, or what was the main?
Most of the times when I was growing up with them, I grew up with them. I was, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and so on and so forth. We mostly did cover songs for the bars because people like to dance to it. And if it was an original, they wouldn't recognize it. However, what I said when Pat and I worked most recently on his album, that was all of his originals. He's a very good songwriter, and that included ballads and it included rock and roll type of things. So
Yeah.
again, he's got all my voice tracks down and he put the music to it somewhat. That's what he was working on, putting music to my voice tracks. And we shall see.
All right, Pat, you need to deliver now, right?
Yeah, Pat, if you see this, come
Please.
on.
And now I'll be more than happy to to advertise this album, wonderful album, when it comes out. Well, let me just say that, my favorite song of all time is Heart of Glass by Blondie. Have you ever sung that?
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
Um, that was not one of the songs that I sang. I did sing One Way or
Or
Another by
another, yeah,
Blondie
yeah.
off of
That's a,
the Parallel Lines album. I know exactly what you're talking about. Heart of Glass, I love that song. It still plays today
yeah.
on the radio. It still plays.
What's her name?
Deborah Harry.
No, yeah, Deborah Harry, but
Oh,
what's her name?
oh, Miley Cyrus?
Miley Cyrus. She did a rendition that I usually renditions
Yes.
of classic songs, they just don't work. This one worked really well, so well that I had to go and buy a T-shirt with her face on it, which is not which is not characteristic of me. I never do that, but I was so impressed by how she delivered that song. It was basically the very first rock and roll song that I heard
Uh-huh.
way back in the, I don't know, 79, 80 when it came out.
Well,
When I was a
see,
kid.
and Miley, it made an impression
Yeah.
and got you interested and it made you happy to hear it. I'm sure there was a physiological change and
Oh yeah.
it drove you to take action, something that you wouldn't do necessarily. And I like Miley Cyrus just fine. I have, you know, I have no thoughts either way, but it made you go take action
It did.
and go buy
I did.
a shirt with Miley Cyrus's
I
face on
did.
it.
And my friends, but
And
again,
she
this
has
is
a beautiful face, so
oh,
there
she
you
has a
go.
beautiful face, totally beautiful face, and it's completely out of character for me. So I put it on, and my friends are like, "What are you doing? What happened to you? are you having a midlife crisis? No, no, I just love this song. It represents so much to me. And this lady had it just, I mean, she performed it really, really well. I mean, and they had, I mean, they respected the song. They didn't mess with it.
I have to listen to it.
You
I know
should.
she did it.
I'll send you a link to both of the original one and then and I
Okay.
remember remember in the 80s and all that, it was very, I mean, in the song she says, you know, she said the word ass, right? Kick ass, right? But they wouldn't let, the censors wouldn't let, right? So she had to
Right.
change it a little bit. I mean, Deborah Harry in the original, but you see the lyrics has the word ass in it, right?
Right. Yes, they
And
always
then
had
when
to
Miley
bleep that
Cyrus
out.
sings it, she sings the original exact lyrics, which I appreciated as well. But as you were saying, right, music just opens up all kinds of things, and all kinds of, you know, actions and so forth, and you know, and affects your life in a very interesting. So that's great. I mean, I you know, a rock and roll singer who's about to come out with an album. Let's say that's where you are.
Well, Pat's working on it. I honestly do not know what's going to happen with that. He's a busy man and
Yes.
he's got a wife and 3 children and you know,
Yes, yes, I know. There's always a reason not to do something.
right, but he's always had that passion. So, you know,
Yep,
and it's been for, 40 years he's still had the passion. So, we shall see.
we shall see. We shall see. I would say that the thing that attracted me most in terms of getting a hold of you and seeing if we can get you to do this podcast is the fact that you're a producer in this program that airs on PBS, right? Distributed on PBS. Can you
I
tell the
am
audience a little bit more about it?
let me just clarify. I am an associate producer for a television program
Yeah.
called Spotlight On.
Hmm.
And Spotlight On is a TV program that has been airing for the last 32 years nationwide on PBS stations nationwide. So
Yeah.
PBS is like the big parent company. And
Hmm.
then all across the nation, I believe they have 348 PBS stations under their umbrella, little baby PBS affiliates, the public broadcasting system affiliates.
Hmm.
So that is where the Spotlight On program airs. And PBS, the public broadcasting system, it's been around for a long time.
Yep.
And the nice thing about it is that 99.999% of the population of the United States has a television.
Hmm.
Everybody usually has a television, and PBS is free. Public programming, public television program is free. So everybody has access to these programs. They don't have to pay for them. Nothing against, Dennis and I, my husband and I, we pay for, you have your cable and then you have all the little, I don't know if I can say them on a podcast, but you have your others that you have to pay for, the ones that begin with N and H and A and D. And television is changing.
Yeah.
So, cable television is getting very expensive. So people are starting to branch off and watch TV other ways. They even, they watch TV on their phones.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah.
technology is amazing.
Yeah.
It really is amazing. And I just like the fact that what we do and what we produce is not only free, but one does not have to pay for it ever. Hopefully that never changes.
Mhm.
And the programs are educational. They're entertaining, but they're educational. And that is where my niche is. I love educational entertainment. And the shows that we produce, my boss, he's more with the equipment and the filming. I am more on the building the content for the show in terms of asking the client the who, what, when, where, why, and how types of why what their organization does helps people.
Yeah.
And we do shows for the retail side, but a lot of the PBS affiliates and PBS themselves, I mean, everybody knows PBS and they know that it's all educational programming, but it's all very entertaining. So you learn in those shows, the spotlight on shows, what they technically are is they're mini 4 to 5 minute mini TV programs that act as fillers in between PBS's main shows, because PBS does not have any airtime to pay for. They don't have any television commercials. So, for example, if you're watching your favorite show on your PBS channel, wherever you live in the United States, and you're watching your favorite show at 8 p.m. on a Friday night, let's say, at 8:25, before the next show at 8:30 comes on, between 8:25 and 8:30, the Spotlight On program comes on. That's what we produce. So, and we just did a great show. One of the newest ones was from the Environmental Defense Fund. And what I liked about it is the fact that I learned so much from, you know, I don't have a chemical engineering degree, and I'm not a scientist, but as a layman person, we make sure that the shows are done in such a way that the average person can understand all the pollutants in the air and what they look like and how they travel, and that the fact that you're ingesting them and what can be harmful. And it really, the Spotlight On programs are designed to teach in a very, it's going to be an oxymoron here, a very rudimentary but scientific way where the layman person understands really, really well.
No, that's very hard. Actually, that's hard to pull off, you know. It requires a lot of hard work.
It does.
And these segments are what, 5-10 minutes long?
No, they're about each Spotlight On show is about 4 to 5 minutes in length.
4 to 5 minutes, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's hard to do, right? To create.
It is. It's not easy.
It's not
so
easy.
the content that's being created, yes, you have to pack a lot of information in a short period of time that's digestible in the mind, that's understandable, that's easy to understand, and emotionally digestible, so that the viewer can either, not only do they understand, but maybe they can take action on whatever the program is, whether it be, you know, we have a lot of environmental shows and clean energy shows and clean air and clean water. So we teach people in a nice way and in an entertaining way how to take care of Mother Earth. What can you do about the recycling? What you can do to, you know, keep the water clean. Just if everybody just does their teeny tiny little part, then we can all accomplish a lot. Most recently, now I'm in New Jersey. I live in New Jersey. I don't know if this is nationwide right now, but all of our food stores, they stopped giving the plastic bags. When you go to the food store now and you go to the checkout counter, you go to the cashier, and they used to put it in plastic bags for you or paper bags. Nay, they don't do that anymore. You have to bring cloth bags. So there's no more plastic that's going to be polluting the ocean. And we have many shows too that show how the plastics can get wrapped around the fish, the necks of fish, the necks of turtles, you know, octopi, seahorses, whatever it is, coral, you know, that kills the ocean life that we need, and everything, like you talk about it, a whole ecosystem that destroys the momentum, the cycle of the ecosystem.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
Try to teach how to prevent that.
Yeah. And so given that these segments, well, first of all, they have to be, I'm assuming they have to be very focused, right, on something very specific, and then they have to be meaningful, and then they have to be delivered in such a way that you maintain and sustain the attention of the viewer and listener. And I'm assuming that's where perhaps the storytelling comes in. It's maybe it needs to be like a story. Like, tell me about how you would, how you, since you're such a believer, and so am I, in the power of telling a story. It seems to be innate in our genes, just like music. I think same thing with stories. I have never met anyone who doesn't want to listen to stories, whether they are a child or they are
Right.
old. They want to hear a story, right? But tell me, like, how do you leverage your storytelling talent, in this particular job, if you do?
Well, I am also a professionally trained voiceover artist, and
Mhm.
um, when all you have is a voice, if it's not television and
Mm.
it's a voiceover, and you're listening, say, to a radio commercial, um, when you don't have a visual, I mean, television obviously does, spotlight on programs do, but when you don't have a visual, your adjectives, the words that describe things for a voiceover artist are imperative,
Mm.
because you have to create
Yeah.
in the hearing mind, the audio part, since the audience cannot see a radio commercial. If you're talking about food, if you've got a food commercial or you've got a car commercial, you have to explain with the inflection of your voice and with adjectives. You have to describe, say, for example, the delicious flavor of something. And when you take a bite, how it feels in your mouth. You have to describe it, whether it's sweet, salty, bursting with flavor. You have to create what the audience is hearing in such a way that they can visualize it in their mind's eye perfectly well. And they're going to say to themselves, wow, that sounds delicious. I'm going to go out and buy that. If it's a car commercial, for a voiceover artist, they're talking about the sleekness of something, the speed, how this particular vehicle might be able to transport you into a different world of calm, as opposed to, you're on a loud Harley Davidson motorcycle and, you're usually not getting any peace. You really have to pay attention to the road, and you might be looking at a beautiful sunset,
Mhm.
but you have to really pay attention to the road. So it's all about the description and the adjectives and creating a picture with your words for the viewer. That is what is going to make a voiceover person successful in delivering the content of a commercial to have the
Yeah.
buyers take action.
Yeah. And so in your voiceover work, um, you've done a lot of commercials, I'm assuming, right?
I've done
Or
enough.
some?
I've
You
done
know?
enough.
Yeah.
Again, with COVID,
Yeah.
usually what I do, I mean, they have a lot of great technology now. There are a lot of voiceover people that have a home studio.
Yeah.
I do not.
Hmm.
I normally would go into the television station and they
Hmm.
have the voiceover booths. That's where I would do my work, or the recording studio. And I would go in the booth and put the actual, they call them cans. They put the cans on, put the headphones over your ears. They call headphones cans. And I do the voiceover work that way. Um, but with COVID, a lot of things are evolving. So now there's a lot of ways that voiceovers can be done, across the nation. If somebody has a nice soundproof,
Yeah.
really good voiceover studio in their home,
Or a closet, I heard. They use
it,
closet.
it can be done. It can be done with a really good microphone.
Yeah.
It can be done, yes. And proper padding on the walls for the sound, yes, it can work well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was gonna ask, so let's say you get a script, right? This is what you need to say. and you are a voice over artist, meaning you understand you understand voice, you understand the power of voice, you understand what voice can do to bring the word to life, so to speak, right?
Yes, exactly.
um and so do you when you get a script and you're looking at it, and you feel like, there are certain words or maybe turns of phrases that if they were rewritten a little bit, be able to deliver more emotion. Do you get into that kind of a conversation, or usually it's like, here it is, do the best that you can with what you have?
Oh no, when I see something, usually it's a 30-second commercial.
Yeah.
So I look at the script, and all voiceover people, they mark up the script. So when I say mark up the script, they are marking up words to highlight, and a strong inflection here, an excited inflection here, a happy inflection here. When you speak and you do a voiceover, you can tell if somebody's really, really excited about something,
Yeah.
or you can tell if somebody's
Right.
really depressed.
There's a lot of acting, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes, hence voiceover
Act-
actor, voiceover
Actor.
actor,
Mm, mm,
voiceover artist. There is a lot of acting, especially again because one doesn't have the visual. So
mhm, mhm.
whatever the product is, my voice will sound different. I mean, I've done everything from technical products to promoting Pat Benatar long ago, to um, Crunch Fitness, to more PBS kind of content, environmental content, to car commercials. So, one of my favorite, two of my most favorite commercials that I did was one for a perfume commercial, because it was, supposed to be a woman's perfume, and it was supposed to be sexy, like it would draw the men in. And then there was another commercial that was a lot of fun. So my voice had to be a certain way. And I did a car commercial for Infinity, and it was all about the fastness of the
Power.
power
Yeah.
and the speed, and comparing it to horsepower and
Mhm,
actual, this was going to be a TV commercial, but they were actually going to be like horses, real horses in the commercial. So I had to visualize and make the viewer understand whether it was going to be on the television, or it was also done in radio, just strict radio commercials, also with no visual. They had to envision the power that it had. So that commercial for Infinity, I had to have a lot of sarcasm in there for, in other words, it had to say, you sure you can handle this car? Are you sure this is for you?
mhm.
You sure you have the nerve to
Of
buy it?
daring, are you a wuss kind of a thing?
And daring, yes. So it had to have that type of inflection. So voiceovers are very interesting to do. They're fun to do. And yes, there's a lot of acting in it. And I am all for that. Was for, to get people to buy things, but I'm very much into the educational side of entertainment. And I'm not sure I discussed this with you before, but I have created, I can't tell too much detail about it due to non-disclosure agreements, but I am a fan, an advocate for the deaf community, sign language for people who they can't hear. So I have created a first of its kind in television history, educational, entertaining, national show that will promote sign language. And I've been working on it for 3 years. It's pretty much ready to go. The cast is almost in place. It's never been done before in the history of television, not this particular type of show. And the audience can participate, and families will be able to watch together. Hearing families that have deaf members, I created it I made a promise to the deaf community a while back that I asked them how I could help. And they said, you know how you can help? We need more of a voice on television. So voila, I thought, and 3 years later, I did come up with something, and now it's legally protected and copyrighted, and I just need to get it on air. So that's where I am now. So hopefully,
Yep.
hopefully within the next year, within the next 12 months, we will have a first of its kind television show that will be promoting sign language, and it's designed for inclusion. There's deaf people are involved, hearing people are involved, CODAs are involved. CODA is an acronym for Children of Deaf Adults. And I think CODAs have a gift because they are bilingual. They speak English and they sign. And 90% of deaf children are born to hearing parents. So through my research and different things, I want to try to continue to bridge the communication gap between deaf and hearing people in a fun, engaging way without the pressure of a classroom setting or a university setting. And sign language now, enrollment in university and college sign language classes has risen exponentially since 2009. And sign language is now the third most studied language in the United States. Number 1 is Spanish, number 2 is French, and now number 3 is American Sign Language. So this is a perfect time in history to continue bridging the communication gap and get sign language introduced as more of a house. It's a real language, and it needs to get more introduced as a household language, even for just so people can have fun with it, learn it in a nice, easy, non-threatening way, where you don't have a professor over your shoulder trying to grade you on something. And I would personally like to see more businesses incorporate. They're doing it. We're moving in a very positive direction with sign language, but I would like more businesses, whether they're retail or not, to have more inclusivity with their hearing employees learning sign language and hiring more deaf employees, so that there is a nice synergy where nobody's afraid, where there's no stigmas on either side, where people don't have a fear of trying to communicate with each other. That's another one of my goals on my plate right now.
No, I saw on your LinkedIn. I was gonna get to it, but I'm glad that you jumped in. It's imminent, right? From what I could tell from your LinkedIn, it's about to happen. Hopefully, the next few months, right?
It's ready to go. I just need a television network to air it, and that's what I'm working on now. I'm working hard on the connections I have, and again, we shall see. Hopefully soon.